All right, we're live.
What's up, fighting game fans? Welcome to EX Saturdays. This is the show where we talk about the Midwest fighting game community scene and keep you up to date on all the recent fighting game news. I'm NT,
I'm Dynamite.
I'm Mr.
Ham Jams.
And
and
I'm
we have a
Mr.
special guest today. We have Mr. Kick, the one and only Low Kick's president.
That's me. How's it going, guys? Welcome to a brand new podcast, a new piece of content that we're bringing to you once a week, every Saturday at 11:30, right? Um,
About there.
and yeah, hopefully we'll be up for a pre-show a little earlier, but this is the first run, so we had to make sure that we got everything going and up and running for you. But without further ado, go ahead and
So, like we said, we're going to be talking about the Midwest fighting game community scene. Now, what does that entail? We're going to be highlighting the players, highlighting the tournaments, and everything around that. Anything else you guys want to add to this, Ham, Dynamite?
Not really. I mean, it's gonna be work in progress as usual. This is the episode one, so I'm looking forward to being able to talk a lot more about just what's going on in our kind of regional scene, and eventually have guests from that scene on so that they can talk about either their experience as a player, a TO, production staff, or whatever, what have you. So I think it'll be really good.
All right.
Well, I
So,
guess that leaves my take on that one. For sure, I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody in the community because there's everybody's got so much talent, and it's really good to get the word out about it. And it's really interesting to see like how you got here and what exactly is it that you do now, and how you've made that better, and what you plan for the future.
So this week we're talking about a couple different things. Like I said, we have Mr. Kick here. We're going to get some thoughts and ideas of the FGC from his perspective, being the lead TO of Low Kick. We're also going to be talking about our recent tournaments being Super Saturdays and Mishima Monthly. We can also touch a little bit on our Ignite Weeklies, which have been rocking. And then we're going to end this off by talking about a couple balance changes with Tekken. We're going to be talking about Granblue Versus, since that's been doing so well, Street Fighter and all the news around that, and then the DBFZ S3 announcement, Season 3. So without further ado, Mr. Kick, take it off here. So we have the Low Kick calendar released last month. You have everything planned out. What's your ideas behind planning this far ahead? What do you want to see coming out of your tournaments?
yeah. So I mean, let's get into it. We've got a lot of hot topics to talk about today, and my main reason for being here today, I don't plan, just as a little bit of a background, I don't plan to always be here. This is more so just for me to jump in and talk about what's going on, give you guys some updates, and also for you guys to, to hear my voice a little bit more, because some people, they see me walking around events, and usually I'm doing production, or I'm making sure that the show is going well, or doing something in relation to operations, right? But this will give me a chance to really talk about what's happening and my perspective on the community and how it's developing, and here in Chicago and throughout the U.S. and everything like that. But what we plan to do in the coming weeks here on EX Saturdays is we're going to have a three-man format, and then we're going to have guests here every once in a while. And then sometimes it'll be myself, maybe it'll be members of the Low Kick team that'll come on here, and we'll talk about our experiences, what we do, and the times that we've had, right? And then sometimes we'll reach out to guests in the community, maybe players, maybe community leads. Could be a wide variety. But anyways, today I just kind of wanted to get on and talk about what we're doing this year in 2020, and all the stuff that we have planned, because it is going to be I'd like to think it's going to be a very big year for us. I think that we have a lot going on. We have a lot planned. This is the first time that we have a full calendar planned, and this is actually here exclusively on EX Saturdays. This is the first time we are going to show this calendar. It is in the process of being completed. All the events here, before I show it, just so you know, all the events here are booked. They are set in stone. However, there are going to be some things that are, there are some things that are still in development, some logistics and some planning that we still have to do. So this is everything that we have so far. And actually, if you look at it, there, like you can see, the quarterly event is actually called Roundhouse. So I made this graphic before before we even had the branding and before I made the logo and design for that, right? But point being is this is our roster, right? We have everything planned out from February, which already happened, right? The first Super Saturdays of the year. I think everybody had a great time. I think it went really well. And it was a great start to our year in terms of events. But we have everything from February all the way to December planned out, starting with March, our next event being Roundhouse. And we're going to have 3 of those throughout the year, right? So our next Roundhouse would be June 6th, and then the last one would be September 5th, and that's actually, I believe, Labor Day, right? Quote me if I'm wrong. But, right. I think maybe it's that weekend, but we picked that weekend specifically because of that, because we figured that people would be off and that they want to go out and do something anyways, right? So what a better time to host a fighting game tournament. But okay, so that's just the weekend before. But yeah, so then we have Roundhouse March 21st. Techo, that's something we did last year, and it was kind of very low key. We went to try it out and check it out, and we don't really expect the Chicago scene to like fly out to Pittsburgh, but it is something I wanted to put up there so people know. And if anything, since we're going to be streaming there this year, you guys can check it out and tune in. And then we've got the next Super Saturdays coming up April 18th. Now, something to point out about Super Saturdays now is that we were last year, we were trying to go with a monthly format for Super Saturdays, and it is now on the same rotation as Roundhouse, right? There's only 3 Super Saturdays this year, right? So you don't want to miss them. They're all hosted at GameWorks Schaumburg, and there might be potentially, spoiler alert, there might be potentially Super Saturdays happening outside of Chicago, and we'll have more information on that coming soon. But for now, we have 3 Super Saturdays throughout the year. They're all going to be at the Schaumburg location, and then our last one for the year is going to be July 18th. And then following Super Saturdays, we have ASIN. We started ASIN last year. That was our first year there, and we ended up streaming and doing a full stage production. And this year, we're going to try and go beyond that and do more than what we did. But yeah, that's where we got our starts, and we're coming back this year for an ASIN Ultimate Arena 2. And then to follow that, the next week, right after ASIN, is Combo Breaker, right? And so if you guys have seen anything or have gotten any of the emails from GameWorks, they have talked about how they're doing a Road to Combo Breaker event. And basically what this means is they're going to do like a seasonal format where you get points and it leads up to the final date. And there'll be 3, I think there's 3 winners that will get Combo Breaker entry and their game fee and everything like that paid for. But point is, it's going to happen at all 7 locations every Thursday, and it's going to build all the way up to the week before Combo Breaker. And the LCQ is going to happen on that Wednesday before Combo Breaker, and that's going to be right before the event. And then they're going to be doing it at the Schaumburg location. And then we're supposed to be streaming that LCQ, and then we're also going to be streaming the finals on Thursday. And then right after the finals, because the finals will happen in the morning, right after the finals, we'll transition into the pre-party, right? And so we're going to do some cool stuff for that and do some streaming. Yeah. Yeah.
What else is there better to do before Combo Breaker than mash buttons, right? Like that's going to be the exciting thing to kind of do, and hopefully people come out who haven't been to GameWorks or haven't been to Chicago. Maybe they only come to the area for Combo Breaker, and then they can kind of see and get a feel of what Super Saturdays is like too, because it's in the same venue.
Right.
And Ham, you've been to Combo Breaker for how many years now? So, like, give us your thoughts on how great Combo Breaker is. Sell some people on this and why we should be going to it.
Yo, Combo Breaker is godlike. Now, mind you, it's not like I'm like a veteran in the FGC, right? I went to the first Combo Breaker I went to was 2 years ago, and I showed up. I was watching an Eris video in the middle of the night, and he was like, "Yo, it's a really cool tournament, Combo Breaker." And I was like, "I don't know what that is or what that means." So I punched it into my phone. I looked it up. It was literally that weekend. I got my mom's car. She drove a Mini Cooper, and I just drove over there, and it was 45 minutes away. And it was godlike. I walked in, there was mad stuff going on. There were people hitting buttons. I sucked at Tekken. I got bodied by some guy from Peru. It was crazy. And after, obviously, like I didn't even play in bracket. I was just spectating. But it's like it's good as a spectator. You get the Midwest scenery, right? Everybody's like got this like good energy. Everybody's yelling. It's a great time. But then after that's all said and done, you're just playing games until 5, 6 in the morning, and
Facts.
that's what you want.
Yeah,
If
that's the
not
greatest
what you
part, the
want,
24-hour venue.
you blew it. You blew it.
Yeah.
You're doing
So
it.
the big reason I wanted you to say that is because the Combo Breaker pre-party is going to be a great insight as to what Combo Breaker is going to lead up to. So definitely make sure you come, even if you don't play Tekken, even if you don't even know what Combo Breaker is, come check it out. It's going to be a great time, especially because it's hosted by us. But Ryan,
Man,
what?
shameless plug. All
Yeah,
right,
this
I'm down
show.
with
Of
it.
course.
Hardest of plugs. That's
Dude,
what
of
we're
course. We're all
Saturdays.
okay.
I suppose. I guess that's like
All right.
we can do that
But
here.
but Mr. Kick, what I want to ask you now that we have this on screen is what Spooky said. Team Spooky's very own Spooky said, "Yo, you guys have this all planned out. That's crazy. How did you go about planning this? Like, give us the insight as to an organizer, what this takes, what the work goes into it."
Well, so it kind of was a compilation of everything we did last year, right? So if you guys are familiar with where we were last year around this time, it wasn't a good time for any of us, right? Um, we were just we were running Super Saturdays out of a gaming lounge in Chicago called Raid Gaming, and this was probably the pinnacle of the event. We were doing seasonals, and we were right in the middle of season 3, and basically it blew up. The lounge had to close. They went out of business, and we lost our home. Right. So, um, what spawned out of that? It was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because that that next it was like the next week after we got all of our stuff. Actually, it was that day we got all of our stuff out of Raid, and we drove over to GameWorks because our guy Chris Chaos had a lead over there, and he was just like, "Yo, you should go to GameWorks. They have an esports lounge. They're doing Smash, but they're not doing anything FGC related." So I was like, "Okay, well, let's pop on over there and check it out. Let's see what's going on." And actually, no, that's wrong. Mishima Monthly was already running at that point, right?
correct.
And Fighting Tuesdays was already running at that. Okay, so I'm wrong. But they didn't have a monthly event, and they didn't have anything that was like in a seasonal format. So we approached them, and we were like, "Hey, this is what we were doing. This is what we can't do anymore. And we'd like to run something here." And luckily they gave us the opportunity, and that's what basically kickstarted everything, right? We had already set up plans to do things with ASIN before that, and that got our foot in the door pretty well to start that off. And then what happened was now we have a decently sized monthly that's doing pretty well, and we were able to take that, create a new format for this year, and since we were like, I guess the other reason why there's so many events happening this year under our calendar is because we had the partnership with Ignite, right? And what we want to do with them is we want to do quarterly events, right? So we had to basically balance and space Super Saturdays out. So we decided, okay, well, Super Saturdays will be 1 month, and then we'll jump to Roundhouse, right? And then you come up to the point where you're like, okay, well, we have this going on, like, for example, ASIN, right, and Combo Breaker. And in May, it's like we're not going to get to do anything, right? We're not going to even try to run an event because there's no point. There's too much going on. So that's basically what filled up our calendar. And then we were lucky enough to get the opportunity to run Fall Fights, which was a GameWorks premiere event, right? They decided to come up with that, and they threw $5,000 at Tekken, right? And then they did pop
250.
right? Yeah, for Street Fighter and Eunice, right? And so we were like, they came to us asking if we wanted to do the production for it. We accepted, and that just became a part of our calendar. And now we're going to be doing it for a second year, and we're still in the process of planning that. But that falls.
JDCR flew out from California and freed everyone up, bro.
Yeah, JDCR took that money with no sweat.
Yo, he heard there was money. He's like,
there was a little bit of sweat. There was like a tiny droplet.
There was for sure some sweat. People were popping up.
Despite that, though, I would say that tournament, like the Tekken, like just the way that community came out to support that tournament, because it was announced kind of like late in September. It wasn't like, we knew months in advance. So the fact that the Tekken community and all of the TOs that run Tekken, not just Low Kick, but all of the TOs, like the Mishima Monthly people, Chicago Tekken, Discord, and that community, the fact they all rallied up and were like, yo, we're going to support this event. Like, this is, even though it was out of nowhere and they had a low amount of time to register, was incredibly, incredibly inspiring. Just
it was a month and a half, right?
Great to see. Yeah. Maybe
the
like
marketing
45
push
days.
was really like, it was definitely like kind of like what is not abnormally last minute for something that big. And we still, like, I was, like, in people's Discords. Everybody was talking to everybody. And then we ended up having people from out of state. Obviously, we had international competition in JDCR, but he just so happened to be in California at the time, and, like, now we have a little bit more grounds. Hey, yo, this is, like, a thing. JDCR came out. Maybe we can get a couple more people. I'm not saying that I want Chicago to take that. Next time, I want JDCR to get exposed.
And looking back on it, I pulled up the Smash. There was 100 people that signed up for Tekken, like obscene, and that was still in last year's TWT season. So that was the highest dojo event that could have existed for that event, which is crazy to me because it was a month and a half turnaround to get 100 players. Like, Tekken shows up strong.
And they drove, bro. Like, there were people driving like 6-7 hours. I was like,
it showed up. They showed up super strong, and the caliber of matches were also just incredible as well. Like, it wasn't just that they showed up in force. It was the whole production, like just the value of watching those matches, whether you're a casual player or aspiring to be a professional player or just love to see hype fighting game matches. It was great.
Yeah.
Overall, amazing event. But we did mention that we have Roundhouse. It's not on the calendar, but Roundhouse has been announced. We're doing that as a quarterly event. But Mr. Kick, talk about the relationship with the weekly now. We've been doing that a couple weeks now, and we're now on Fridays. So how'd that all develop?
So the way Ignite happened was we were at the Red Bull Conquest. Was it Red Bull Conquest? There was another one.
It was 100% Red Bull.
Yeah. So
I was fine drinking Red Bull vodka. It was godlike.
So we were at Red Bull, and um, Noah, the former tournament organizer there, he reached out to me a couple nights before the event, and he was just like, "Hey man, I need some extra guys. We're kind of short on TOs." And I was like, "Well, absolutely. Let me just queue up the Low Kick Discord real quick, call in the troops, and we'll be there. Let's do it." And so we just came out and did our thing and helped the other staff that was there. And by the end of it, I was approached by the owner, Sam, and he was just like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to take over the operations for FGC meetups, and we're really interested in what you guys are doing. We see how much effort you're putting into the scene and everything that you have going on. We'd like to see if there's anything that we can do to collaborate, right?" So after talking about it and seeing what was available, we were able to start running operations on Mondays, and then we were doing Thursdays for a while, and it was actually it was FGC meetups on Thursday before we were there, and there was free entry, right? There were free brackets, and it was a smaller turnout, right? So they were looking for something that was going to change the turnout, and we came in and we decided to experiment with some things, but overall Thursday just wasn't the best day, right? Skokie it's kind of out there, right? And those of you who come out to Skokie, we really appreciate you coming out there, right? Because we know that it's not the closest place in the city, right? But and especially for people like me, like I drive, like for example, yesterday, I left my house. I should have left earlier, but I was working on overlays, and I left my house at like 4:30, and then I didn't get there until 6, right? um, so it was like an hour and a half drive, and that's what happens when you live in the suburbs, right? So I feel that pain for people who come out of the suburbs, and I really appreciate you if you come out to Skokie or even the Chicago location, right? Because if you're in the suburbs, that's still kind of a commute, right? But anyways, it was on Thursday for a little while, and basically what we decided was, in one of our meetings that we were having, was that like Thursday's not a good day. People are getting off work; they can't make it in time for brackets. Still kind of a thing on Fridays, but it works out better, right? We started asking around. We're like, "Hey, how would you feel about doing this on Fridays? Would it make your life easier? Would you come out more?" And it seemed like the general consensus approved, right? So we took a chance, and we were like, let's just do it. And we had the first Friday we had 115 people,
Yeah, it was.
which was
It was
out of
incredible.
nowhere. I was like, okay,
Well, that was also with the release of Granblue.
yeah, that also was a major
Yeah,
contributor.
the release of
Get
Granblue,
to that.
obviously big buck. Yo, dude, I'm like mad tiny now, bro.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yo,
Yo,
So-
it's picture in
Yo, I'm
picture,
shrinking.
bro.
yo,
I
got
kept
that?
getting smaller.
Ran into one of the Goombas, turned into Tiny Mario.
So
What did I even
Damn,
do, man? I'm
so
getting phased out of Low Kick.
yeah, basically we're just gonna keep
this is how we expose people who are getting phased out.
temporary fix for now. We'll just and T's back. Okay, so anyways, ignore that. There are gonna be some production hiccups for the first week. There's still a lot of tech that goes behind doing a remote podcast, oh,
Yeah,
which is something.
Oh, I'm taking over the cast.
Yeah, I'll just play, operator on the fly, but that's okay. So, anyways, while we're developing this podcast, the tech will get better over time. So I apologize for any hiccups week one. Mind you, we are using Skype to do remote streaming. So I don't even have to talk about that. You know why that's kind of an issue. But
Yeah, I mean,
anyways,
you can see it in real time, right?
anyways, let's talk about because we also plan to have this podcast on iTunes and Spotify. So for those of you who are going to be listening to us in the future on Spotify, they have no idea what's going on right now. They're just like in a different land. They can't see what's happening, right? So We do plan to export on YouTube so you can watch the video feed though. But anyways, we were talking about what were we talking about? Fall fights, right?
We were talking about
Oh, Ignite.
Ignites.
locals, yeah,
Right,
the
right.
weeklies.
And so when we moved to Friday, we could just feel it. We were like, this is going to be better. Chris Chaos was in my ear, like, yo, you got to do this, man. This is going to be great.
You have to do it on Fridays, bro.
He was like,
You
every
have
time
to.
we brought it up, he was like, yeah, the community wants it. They need a Friday event.
For sure.
Do it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm down. Let's do it. And so we put the things together that we needed to do and got the branding all ready to push out. And then the owner of Ignite decided to pay for an advertisement spot at Frosty, right? So that ran all weekend on every stream, which I think really helped, right? Because there was a lot of people at Frosty from Chicago that kept seeing that, and I think everybody was ready for it, right? And so um, the first 2 weeks, so actually the first week was great. We had 115 people. The second week was Valentine's Day, and it was also the Friday before Super Saturday, so bodied, right? We didn't have
Yes.
yeah, we didn't have the greatest turnout that Friday. It was just too many factors going against us, right? Um, but that's kind of something you have to deal with when planning a weekly on the weekends, right? Saturdays, like I'm thinking back to Super Saturdays at Raid, and honestly, we didn't have too difficult of a time, but Saturdays is usually a good day for everybody, right? Fridays can be a hit or a miss at times, so it really just comes down to what's going on, right? And we also are conscious of the fact that there are a lot of FGC events going on now, so it's like we have to really double check the calendar. We have to look at the calendar very frequently to make sure that we're not conflicting with anything that's local, and if we are conflicting with something that's outside of the Midwest, we have to, at the very least, accommodate in some way, right? So, but yeah, overall, the FGC meetups has grown. I think we're at an average of 80 people on Mondays right now, which is great, and it's been consistent for the past couple of weeks. Um, and even leading up, leading out of 2019, we were still having very consistent numbers. Mondays has not went down. It's great. Um, and Fridays is still growing, right? So we had our first night. It went very well, and it was also a free night, so that's something to consider as well. But uh, Fridays is in the midst of growing, and like last night, I think we were at 50 people. So like it's doing okay. It's doing good. I couldn't ask for more right now, right? We could, but at the same time, I'm content with it. I think that it's going to keep growing, and I think that now that we've introduced the stream, right? Like because we weren't streaming the first 2 Saturdays, and then last week I came out and did a stream for Granblue, and I plan to do that stream consistently now, right? I'm going to be there every Friday streaming unless something happens or I have to go out of town or something like that. But I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible when it comes to streaming on Fridays, and I think we're looking at potentially doing more with Fridays as well. I can't say what we're going to be doing yet, but just stay tuned. There will be some new stuff coming to Fridays, and maybe Mondays too. But
Maybe so. One thing I would like to say about the locals before we rotate off of it is that it is, as with most things FGC related, we were able to build on it because of all of the efforts of the community in the past, right? Like before we were even doing things, there was the locals there at Ignite. So it just goes to show you that, and it's important to note that progress in the FGC is built upon history of effort, right? So it's not just like, oh, show up and then, magic will happen. It takes a lot of work from a lot of different people and a lot of time and effort that's passed down through the years. So it's something that I'm always thinking about whenever I see an event that's like, oh, we have so many people here, or just the strength of a certain community. In this instance, the Midwest community is just, it's always so inspiring to see like this is a labor of love as well,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just strictly like business, like, oh, these are the one, the numbers and the red and the black of the ledger. It's also something that's a passion for a lot of people, whether they be on the organizing side or the playing side or the audience side, or whatever mix of that they have. It's always something that is very inspiring to see. So I do, just want to say that, if you're listening and you're part of the Chicago FGC or Midwest FGC in general, thank you for helping our events become so successful in whatever way you do, whether it's attendance or whether it's aiding us in actually running it, or just people who pop in and give us
Watch the
advice,
stream,
like, hey,
give feedback,
anything like that.
Right.
We really do appreciate it.
Even the people on Twitter retweeting our events, liking, commenting with us, just any sort of exposure to the rest of the world, that's all greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've said it and I'll keep saying it that I really appreciate Chicago. They've done a lot for us, and even going back to our roots back in Palos Heights 3 years ago, like, there's still a lot of consistent regulars that we have that come out on Mondays and Fridays into our monthlies that have been here since the start, right? And that is another podcast that we can go on. That could literally take an entire podcast. But I'd like to come back.
Yo, that's before my time, man.
Yeah,
I get to sit here and get story time. It's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be podcast lore.
Yeah. I'd love to come on and give story time about the experience and everything. But I mean, I think that's going back to the calendar. I think the only thing we didn't cover was Fight Before Christmas, and that would be Fight Before Christmas 4. So that's going to be in the same space. It'll be at Ignite Skokie. It'll be December 19th. I know that a couple people were actually quite a few people hit me up and were like, hey, the date last year that we had was too close to Christmas. It was too rough.
It was rough.
And I get it. Well, unfortunately, we have to do a December event at some time, but I think because of the way the calendar falls this year, that we were lucky to get this December 19th date, and we're going to run it. So I hope to see you guys there. I know that's months from now, and we're not even thinking about it, but that's the last thing on the roster. And by all means, let me know what you think about everything that's here, right? If you have any questions about it, if you have concerns or feedback about like these dates or about anything that we have going on, you guys are always welcome to reach out to me on Twitter or on our Discord. If you have our Discord, if you're not in our Discord, please join, check it out, be a part of the community, and feel free to hit any of us up, right? Not only just me, but every person on Low Kick is really active and has done a good job at just keeping up with people and, making sure that they keep people informed, right? But overall, that's the Low Kick 2020 calendar, and trust me, there's most likely more coming that's not there. There's a lot, kind of floating at the moment. But these dates are all set in stone, and we hope to see you there. But I mean, that's really all I had to talk about today. But and that was one of the main highlights of the podcast. But we've got a lot of extra. I shouldn't say extra, but we have a lot of main content for you guys today on EX Saturdays. And T, if you want to take it from here, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to circle back to the Ignite thing. So he's not here today, but the co-owner of Low Kick, O-Scouts, we call him Jax. He and our other teammate Seth have been putting out videos of our weeklies. So what they're trying to do is now highlight the winners of every weekly. You can see it in that link that I just posted. They do a great job of just doing a quick breakdown of what happened on all the weeklies. It's like a minute and a half. You hear Jax's sweet voice speaking to you, giving you all the news, and it's great. So if you want to know what's happening every single week, please keep in tune to Jax and Seth's Twitter. They'll be putting it out every single week. But to circle this back around, we had our first event February, what was it, 15th? Is that right?
15th.
Yeah, so that was our first Super Saturdays of the year, and we had a pretty dang good turnout. And man, Granblue is popping. That was our most entered tournament. I think around like 44 people, something crazy.
Yeah, it was close to 50.
There's a lot of people trying to play Granblue, bro, because the game is new and like nobody has access to it because they're just out there doing whatever. Everybody wanted to play it as soon as possible so that they didn't get scrubbed out month one.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
I mean, we ran out of like the BYOC area. We ran out of space. Like there were so many people. There were so many people plugging up for Granblue that like the actual power to the building started to dim for a little bit when people started like boot
what
up.
was funny?
It was wild.
What was funny was I'm telling people, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have a lot more BYOC space this year because this Super Saturdays, because I was like, we're opening more spots, and I kind of remapped the room, and we pushed into the esports room a little bit. And I was like, yeah, we're going to have a lot of BYOC. And Granblue shows up and just takes over like 80% of it. I was just like, all right, well, that happened.
Yep.
Yo, that was like TW during the TWT season, the Tekken era, when Tekken would just roll on through and they're just like, yo, we brought setups. It's like, what you playing right now? Soul Calibur, get off the setup. We're playing Tekken 7. MK, don't even worry about MK. Don't worry about that. You can play Tekken 7.
It was so bad that during Super Saturdays that like we would obviously plan out the room so we could have an equal amount of games. Tekken players would come up and be like, hey, does this system have Tekken? All right, we're playing Tekken. It's like,
they didn't even ask.
bro.
They straight up just walk up in there. They would just whoop.
In the middle of tournament.
They'd see it. They'd see Tekken 7. They're like, all right, it's time for Tekken 7. And I look over. I'm like, come on, bro. You know, you can't be doing that. And they just look at me like,
I need to run Guilty Gear. I'm supposed to have 4 setups. I'm down to 2. 2 of the ones next to it are Tekken. I'm like, bros, I need this for tournament. You got to get up. But Granblue is popping. Dynamite, I know you've been on commentary for it. Like, how do you think it is like a competitive, like, as a viewer? Like, how do you think that is?
I think that it's a really fun game to watch. Like, so I've been playing Granblue almost exclusively outside of a couple of other games on the side, but I've been grinding pretty hard in it. I think that as a viewer, the game is really exciting because there's the potential for like super big damage on certain counter hits and things like that. I also think that the speed of the matches can go from either like if you get blown up in Granblue, you get smoked like immediately, like 10 seconds in to the round,
and you just die.
Yeah, like don't get anti-aired in near the corner in Granblue. It's terrifying. But I think as a viewer, that makes it really exciting. Obviously, the visuals of the game are exquisite. They're incredible. ArcSys Works is doing what they do best, and just putting out incredible looking fighting games. And I think that it's a game that's easier to understand from a viewer standpoint because there aren't too many super advanced techniques and things like that. Obviously, you have certain things in OSs in the game, and that does change what's going on, but they're not as many as there would be in a game of a similar fashion or a different type of anime game. So, yeah, I think it's super
bro. You got that. You got them sounding like Ultra Street Fighter 4 era. People talk about doing safe jumps. People talking about check out this option select on landing. I'm teching throws while at the same time it's like crouch tech. I have no man. They're wild out there.
Well,
anime players know how to animate any game. They're like,
That's
this is
true.
like Street Fighter. Now it's anime.
And it does seem like with this game, there is a lot of legacy because looking at our top four, we had Royal Heart, no surprise. We have The Arm, no surprise. Two notorious anime players, Mooney Blues and Great Fern Man. Like, those are all anime players, and they're already dominating this game.
Well, so there's definitely going to be legacy that comes into the game, right? That's just like, oh, I'm super incredibly good at, Guilty Gear or Unist or CF, or so that's going to carry over no matter what. Yeah. But from a casual standpoint, from someone who's either just getting into these type of games specifically, or someone who's just like, I just want to watch a sick fighting game, I think Granblue is going to be up there as far as watching, especially 2D fighters, because it's the visuals, the sounds, the music, it all comes together for a really good product. But there is, like, if you're getting into playing it, there are some things that are going to be, pretty standard to any anime game. Like, you're going to have to know you're going to eventually have to know what an OS is, right? Like, it's just one of those things. So, I think that it's going to end up turning out to be one of the games that lasts for a while. We do see a lot of crossover because some of that is any new fighting game that comes out has tons of crossover, right? Like, for the most people from other games, like, yo, let me check it out. I think this one might have a little bit more staying power because of the fact that while it does have some complexities, it's not nearly as complex, but it still has some depth there to dig into. So I think that that's actually going to play out in his favor because we're in an era now where there's so many different fighting games that it's easy to jump from one to another if one doesn't really grasp you, or if it's not easy enough to add on to your already current rotation of games that you're playing.
And I think the best part about it is looking at the bracket, there's a lot of names I don't recognize from our other events. So it seems like that Granblue is almost doing what Street Fighter 4 did back in 2009, where it's almost getting not a resurgence, but a new wave of players into fighting games. And that's super exciting because a lot of our players who played in Granblue are crossover from, as you mentioned, Unist, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue. So we have all these strong players that can now teach and coach all these new players how to get into other games and also show them what other fighting games are similar and anything of interest that they might have in other games.
Yeah, I mean, and you also have like Street Fighter 5 players, like Zach in the Box is playing Granblue pretty seriously. Shaqzam is playing Granblue, so there's a lot of crossover that's happening, and it seems to be sticking around. So it's a really good game to check out. I actually like the fact that right now the roster's on the smaller side of 11 characters because the matchups are there for you to learn, and you can learn them a lot easier than if it came out and it had like 35 characters. And it's like, well, now I have to learn all these matchups and play whatever my other game or fighting game might be. So, I think that that's going to end up being in Granblue's advantage.
And I love that you pointed that out because that was actually my problem getting into fighting games originally. I started playing fighting games 2009 with Street Fighter 4, but I didn't try getting competitive until Tekken Tag 2. Now, if you've never played Tekken Tag 2, there's something like 60 characters in that game. Tekken is also a legacy game where you basically have to know every character's move list in order to do well. So having 60 characters is daunting. Yeah, there's duplicates and mirrors and whatnot, whatever you want to call the copy characters.
You gotta fight double Ling in that game.
Right,
double
so
capos.
If you don't know double capo, double Zhao Yu, like, you're gonna get blown up. But having 11 characters to start with is so much more compact and bite-sized that if you get blown up, it's only one character, and you probably already know 4 or 5 other characters. So going in the lab isn't bad, whereas, like, you jump into Tekken now, again, it's up in like 40 characters again. So it's like, well, I have to learn all these characters now. And it's like, I don't want to do that. And Dynamite, do you actually
have to learn the Lucky Chloe matchup in 2020?
But yes. Dynamite, do you know how many characters are coming in the DLC pack?
So the first 2 characters that are coming out are Chaos Bringer and Narmaya, which will be on March 3rd. And then they have another character coming out, Soris, sometime in April, and then Jita in May, or later in April as well. And then there's another character that hasn't been announced. So the game's going to grow. I expect that they're going to be character reveals pretty frequently, given the fact that it's backed by Side Games and they have like all the money in the world. So,
Yeah, they got that gotcha games money,
Gotcha
bro. You know,
cash, man.
somebody's dropping like 10K in a month just to
Right
get that one pull.
Right now,
Right
there's
now.
dropping like I got to spend all this money. I need this character. So
And the funniest part to me was that the physical copy came with gotcha codes for the mobile game.
they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Like, let's not, you know, they know they're in the boardroom. They're like, yo, we're going to bring out a fighting game and then we're going to throw some gotcha codes in. And then people are going to spend
people
more
are
money.
like, I guess I'll try it. And now they're clinically addicted and they can't pay their rent.
Immediately. Shout outs to Jolly Phobic. We love you, man.
We love you.
Yo, you didn't have to call him out.
Yo, bro, he came in. Yo, straight up, he was like, yo, Granblue's looking pretty nice. I might try it out. Immediately jumps in the gotcha game. Every day on Twitter talking about, look at the sick pull, bro. I'm like, what's happening?
Concerned. I love Jolly. He's amazing. He's great. Sam Show commentator. He's a great dude, but sometimes I'm concerned because his timeline turned exclusively into Granblue for like the gotcha game, not the fighting game, the gotcha game for like 2 weeks, and I was like, "This is not good. This is gonna."
Got another one.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's supposed to show you that like people really like that game and they have the cash to spend. So I do think that the character release cadence will be pretty steady. And I think that's a good thing for the game, but I do agree that, you know, starting out with those 11 is a pretty good look for this type of game.
All right, so now that I mentioned Tekken, let's switch into that. I don't even need to tell you who won because we already know. But just to tell you, it is Shadow20Z. He is one of the world's best players. He went to TWT finals, did extremely well. So it's hard for anyone to beat him. But in second place, we had Mazen. And third place, we had TFU looking at, also known as Monty. And I apologize for this person because I've heard this name pronounced two ways. But ITS, it's either Sync or Cinch. And
yo, I'm almost positive it's Sync.
Is it? Because I heard O-Scouts say Cinch, and I wasn't sure, so hopefully we can get the correction on that one. But that person in particular is doing well for themselves. They're actually up and coming. They just took the last Monday Tekken bracket that was featured in Jax's Twitter video. And yeah, I mean, it's great seeing new faces for a game that's been out since, what, 2017, 2016? Is that when Tekken hit consoles?
They call them the 017ers.
So we also had a couple other great people who didn't make top four. Let's see, it was Dylit, I know, made it up there. Afterburn, Jimmy Pikachu Choi actually was also up there.
Ridiculous, bro. That's Xiao Yu.
And we also had Linux. I believe that was all of our top 8. But yeah, great turnout. Let's see, I was on the mic with Brock. I remember that there were a couple blowouts, which was actually kind of surprising, but I mean, one of them was Shadow a lot. I think the biggest highlight I have to give is to TF. I think he did amazingly well. It was a 35-man bracket, and the last time I saw him was actually at Fall Fights. I don't know how he's been doing in terms of bracket, but him getting third place was, you know, huge congratulations to him, and he's still rocking the Akuma.
A mook.
Yo, dude, all he's got to do is tighten them combos. I mean, I wasn't actually at Super Saturdays until it was already passed. And I was watching Tekken at work on my phone. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, yo, these fundamentals are looking kind of wrong. And these people aren't punishing nothing, and they're dropping mad combos. But, like, you know, that's just how it is sometimes. Everybody was looking real loose. But, you know, Monty's playing Akuma. Sure, he dropped the combo, but that's a reset of the 30%. Don't even worry about it, man.
My favorite part about Monty is that dude will pop off on you at any point in time. And it's all in good fun. It's great. Like, I remember at Fall Fights, he was facing JDCR. He never dropped the smile off his face.
Yo, but that's when you know you're getting cooked, though. You know you're getting cooked when you're not looking at the screen all hard. You just just smiling, you're laughing. You get hit with something because you did something minus 24, and he just throws you into the sky for 15 minutes. You're like, this is great. But in reality, you're dying inside a little bit. This JDCR, he's kind of godlike, just a little bit.
And, of course, talking about Tekken, later on we are going to be talking about the balance patch. I don't want to get into that now because we all know that Leroy was super busted. But I actually didn't see any Leroys at Super Saturdays. I mean, they could have been in pools, but, you know, having to run brackets, I couldn't watch everything. There were no Leroys in our top 8. So I mean, take that as you will, but I think it was overall a really good
Look
showing.
at Dom's face.
You got something to say
He's
about that,
like,
Dom?
Yeah, take that as well.
Nah.
Over there, still downplaying Leroy. We're doing this live. Nah, man.
I'm
That
not
character
downplaying
is
anything.
still in like
Go.
a weird state. I'm not. We'll talk about it later. We'll
Talk
get
about it
there.
in a little bit. We'll get there.
Ooh.
All I'm
He's
saying is
ready.
that
We
the
got
representation wasn't there. I'm not trying to say he's a bad character. I'm not trying to say he's broken. Get that out of here.
Dan,
But Mr. Kick, I believe you were behind the desk for a lot of these. Was there anything in particular that you saw that you want to
was
highlight?
I behind the desk at that point? I don't think I was. To be honest, I missed most of Tekken because that was when I was wrapping up at the end of the night. And so yeah, that's my take on it.
But I mean, like overall with the tournament, while we're talking about all these top fours and anything, was there anything that you saw throughout the day
Oh, okay, gotcha.
that is unusual or like anything you want to highlight?
Granblue was sick, man. That was hype. Like everybody was popping off the whole time. It was great.
Senkola and Dynamite over there just killing it on commentary. Everybody, I could hear the crowd from my phone, and it's got a busted speaker, and I still heard, "Ooh!" I was like, "Yeah, this is sick."
Shout out to St. Cola as well. He's a legend, man. That guy he's really good at what he does. So he makes it easy. He makes it really easy to be on the mic with him. And I mean, not to go in reverse, but the fact that tournament was the first one that we had at a monthly, and it was just there were so many people. There were like 40 people there, and the game isn't even out in the NA. And then the grand finals, especially Arm getting the run back against Royal Heart. Whew, I mean that in and of itself was an incredible match. Like if you can't watch anything from that bracket at Super Saturdays, watch that grand finals. And that was like week 1 or 2 of Granblue. So yeah, it's gonna be really explosive. And those two, especially whenever they clash, Royal and Arm, it's gonna be something special.
Yeah, Royal is one of our best uni players, and the Arm is one of our best Guilty Gear players. So it's actually really funny watching them compete for number 1 in a different game.
Yeah.
He, when I was talking to him outside at Skokie, it was like the first Friday event that we had, right? He was like, and this was before Super Saturdays, so it was like the 7th. It was February 7th. And I was talking to him, and he was just like, I don't know, man. I like this game, but I don't know if I'm going to play it for real. And he was just like, I might. And then shows up to Super Saturdays and, does this thing. So, I mean, I think he's enjoying it. But
yeah, overall, it's been great. And one of my favorite things is actually Ladiva's Super. She, when she has Super Skybound art, will do the... What is that term? I haven't watched wrestling in so long. Yeah, 3 count. There it is. So, it's obviously health dependent. I think it always ends at 294 if they're too high of HP.
I read an interview that was done with Arxis, and they said if it's not going to kill, it randomizes. So I think that's the way that the super works. So
it's a pin. That's what I was thinking. That's the word.
Yeah.
Pin him. Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you get lower HP, like if you have 1 pixel left, it'll be 299. Like that's hype, dude. Because that's just directly telling you this is where you need to be getting excited because it's the classic James Chen question: is it gonna kill?
And the answer is yes, because it does like 60% of your life.
It does a ton of damage. I think it does 5,000 raw. So if you use the 720 input. 4,000 if you use the easy input, but it's one of the best supers I've seen in fighting games just because of the countdown. Like especially when it's in that range where you're not sure and you see the ref and his hand is coming down and it's like slow.
And it's even greater when the crowd gets in because they go 1, 2, and then before 3 happens, like, oh my god, is it gonna do it? Is it gonna do it? And if it goes, they go 3, and then if not, everyone like freaks out, like, oh no, he's not over, it's not over, and then it's a scramble to try and get the last hit. It's all great.
Yeah, it was a good time watching people come in, like normal people that were there for just GameWorks and not the event, were walking around upstairs too because they were just checking it out, and like during Granblue, they were excited and they were just like, well, first of all, they was like, what the hell is going on? But you know. Um,
That's always my favorite question when I'm at the door. Somebody walks in and is like, they got a beer in their hand. It's like, hey, man, what's going on in here? I'm like, come on,
And then-
bro. You can hit some
and
buttons,
then
too.
they hear Aaron.
I'll lend you my
And
stick.
then they hear Clausen pop off, and they're just like, "Oh, all right."
Okay.
All right.
This is what this is.
All right, so moving on to other games, we're only going to be highlighting our top 4 games. Next is Street Fighter. On our list had 22 entrants. Our top 4 for that one was Random High Fives taking number 1. Number 2 is Destructive, and third is Wish Punish, and fourth Mike Yaru. Now, unfortunately, I'm not well versed in Street Fighter, so do you guys have anything about that?
I mean, I only got to watch a tad of it, unfortunately, due to the fact that I was at work. But I did get to see the Geef from Random High Fives, and that's all I need to see. If I'm not mistaken, Destructive was playing Urian as well, and it's not like that. I now that he's got like V skill 2, and he can just do V skill 2 and do Fireball, that massive Fireball. It's not like Geef, he can't just jump at it, and I don't think he's headbutting that thing anymore. That thing's got like 3 hits of damage, so like you just have to hold that.
Yeah, you just gotta. I mean, unfortunately, you can't challenge it, right? Like, if you just gotta hold it. And this group of individuals in the top 4 are, Chicago has a strong Street Fighter, and Midwest in general has a strong Street Fighter 5 scene. So, you're going to see these 4 showing up a lot. You're going to see Zach in the Box showing up a lot. You're going to see Just a Kid obviously showing up a lot. You're going to see all of these, people that you would think going into Street Fighter, like, oh, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my thing. And especially if the bracket isn't super huge, everyone listed here and the people I spoke about will wash you immediately. Like, it's not a joke when it comes to Midwest Street Fighter. And so I think that obviously every time Super Saturdays roll around, Street Fighter community has been super supportive, and this particular bracket was not a letdown at all. It's cool. And Seth came out. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So that was sick to see. But yeah, it's always exciting to see Street Fighter 5 top 4.
And last shout out to the Street Fighter community. So when Super Saturdays happened, Seth came out 2 days prior, and being tournament organizers were like, 2 days is not enough to have a character be tournament viable. But Seth was telling us from the Street Fighter Discord, like, hey, we want Seth, we want Seth, we want Seth, we want Seth to be viable.
That day.
On the spot. And, we didn't all unlock Seth because we were adamant saying we're going to ban this character. But they said, we'll bring the setups. And they did.
Yeah, at that point I was
like, it was crazy.
Right, you want to do it? Let's run it, But I need the setups.
Ultimately, I think that's something that should take note of. If that's how you feel, if you're in a community and your community comes together and says, well, we want to be able to do this, or we don't want to be able to do this, you just let us know. We can make it work. Like, I know NRS has the 2-week rule on characters and stuff like that. But if the MK guys want to, rock spawn immediately, then let us know. I mean, it's got to be like a general majority and stuff like that, because we don't want to just take a dump on somebody. But as long as you guys agree as a community, then we can do it for you. If you don't, though, you got to hold that, and Seth is going to be locked behind iron bars.
Right.
Yeah, again, shout outs to those guys. And so our last top entered game was DBFZ, and I believe the person who won was someone we never actually saw before. Android at 17 needs a nerf, and no, I'm not kidding. That is their tag.
Yeah,
that's the name.
He did run him on the team too,
and he did.
And dude, he was good. Like. Yeah. He's ridiculous with that character. And in second place, we have, I believe, also another new person, Ibi Kunle. I haven't seen this person before. Also, our third, still, again, new people, Play Guy. Not familiar with any of these people. And in fourth place, we have DPS, Draco Pisces.
Who usually is in first.
For his money.
That's the number one. Like, if you don't know and you're in the Midwest scene for Dragon Ball, DPS is like the one has the target on his back. So the fact that he was fourth, wow. Yeah. I mean, that was saying something.
How many Super Saturdays seasons did he win?
Ah, man, too many.
Well, yeah, it was both. It was the first 2, and then we didn't have the third final. But
so technically all of them.
Fortunately, yeah, both. Yeah, so I mean, he was in first place though. at the end of season 3. We unfortunately didn't have the finals because of raid closing down, but he was also in first place for that season as well, and he was dominant. I mean, the first time he went to loser side was towards the end of season 3. So, I mean,
And that
DPS is doing his thing.
Who was giving him a run for his money? I can't even think of his tag. Why can't I think of his tag? I know exactly who it is.
Is it Awesome King? Was that his name?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not even from Chicago, I don't think, anymore. At least.
Yeah.
I want to say he drove down.
I'm not sure.
No, Joker, that's right. Globo. It was Globo.
Okay.
I saw that Smash Splash is pretty cool.
I think the announcement of season 3, which we'll talk about a little bit later, really helped bring out new people because normally Dragon Ball only gets about 12, 13 people for our monthly, but we got 20 people, I think, 20 people flat.
And that was before season 3 dropped.
Yeah, everybody was like, all right, boys, one more time to watch the Spirit Bomb. They lit the cigarette. They're like, I cannot wait to get out of this Oki situation with GT Goku, Kid Buu mix-ups for the rest of my life. Yo, they were struggling out there.
Help! Oh man. So yeah, it's great to see the Dragon Ball community come out like that. And like I said, prior to season 3 dropping, so I can only imagine how numbers are going to be for Roundhouse, because I've been seeing some clips from season 3. We'll get there too, but whew, man, it's looking mad spicy out there.
And now, like I said, we're only going to highlight the top 4 games. Now, that's no shade to the rest of the games, even though the entrants weren't as high. We still love you. Those matches were still crazy. But I do want to give some time to shed light on Mishima Monthly, which happened last Sunday. That was the 23rd, I believe.
Yo, shout out to Callisto and D for putting that on. The Tekken community really appreciates that.
And not to mention, they have now added Soul Calibur into the mix, which Ham and I went to, and it was great. Callisto and D are putting out tons of great work for the community, keeping Tekken alive, and now fostering a new community.
Yep.
So, let's see. Looking at their Tekken bracket, top 4, Shadow 20Z winning yet again. Fab Will taking second. John Hammer made his return from New York after clapping over there, made it in third, and then Mason got 4th place.
Twisting him, bro. Yo, John Hammer went to New York and straight twisted him. You know what I mean.
It was pretty great. And I know on the mic, there was Puppy Swarm, there was B-Brock, I think Zamadan may have jumped in for 1 or 2, and Michi. Michi was also in there. Let's see if he has it on the YouTubes. Doesn't look like he has. Nope, no 2020 events, so unfortunately can't link that. But the best I can do is here is the. I didn't see him. I just.
Oh, really? Usually.
If D is still in chat, hopefully she can drop.
Yeah, D or Puppy Swarm. If you're still in chat, can you drop the link for Mishima Monthly for February 2020?
At the very least, there's the Smash GG if you want to see all the standings in the bracket. I didn't see anything too crazy. I gotta say they run a tight monthly though. They had, I think it was 42 players, and they don't even get the sky bar like we do, and they still run that bracket tight, dude. They got that done in like record time.
I found it.
It was mad fast. It was super efficient. Callisto's behind the stream screaming, "Yo, you got a match?" Mike W's over there with a clipboard. It's tight.
Yeah, I found it.
Thank you, Puppy.
I found it. Yeah. Oh,
Puppy just dropped it. Thanks.
Sick.
Also, shout out to Mike W. He's always in the Tekken community, helping a hand by TOing and whatnot. Mr. Goo as well was doing it as well.
Young Mike.
So Puppy Storm just dropped the link in chat. So shout outs to Puppy Storm, also rocking it on the mic. Overall, I mean, it wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. Just the games were super tight across the board.
Yeah, it's always nice to see that tournament specifically, because the proximity of the players to commentary and to everything is, I like to see crossover like that. I like to see reactions from players to people on comms, and honestly, Tekken always shows up for Mishima Monthly, so you know it's going to be a crazy wild bracket, and it's a great event.
I also want to say shout outs to Jepson's Tugboat. I know he's been on Twitter a lot saying, he's having a struggle getting into top 24s at majors and whatnot, but he made top 8 this month. So I hope he is proud of that because, from what I'm gathering on his Twitter, that's been a goal of his. So, shout outs to him. Dilate, I believe, also made top 8. JPad as well. We have Emily making out at 5th. So overall, great turnout. My buddy Post Malort showed up. I haven't seen him in a while. He's actually the one that got me into Tekken. Pushin, shout outs to Pushin, LK Pushin. He actually was on stick at that event, so I wonder how he felt about that. Also, John Hammer, he switched off of Hitbox. He's back to stick.
He switched off of Hitbox?
Yeah, he switched off of Hitbox.
Yo, he went back to playing real Tekken. Let's go. Hitbox frauds.
Wow.
Hey man, he's still out there clapping. He got 3rd place with stick, so I'm not gonna say anything.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, John Hammer's he's gonna fucking rock you if you don't know what you don't know what you're doing. But I'm just surprised because usually, especially for Tekken, people are like, "Yo, Hitbox is like the thing to do," right?
I mean, I switched to Hitbox. I couldn't do stick.
Yo, I was talking to Super Akuma when we were having fall fights, and I was like, "Hey man, do you think you can make it out?" And he's like, "If there wasn't an event this week in Europe, I would 100% go. That's definitely something I want to do." And then immediately after that, he goes, "Do you play on Hitbox?" And I was like, "No, stop, get out of here,
stop."
Join them.
All right, so switching over to the Soul Calibur side. So again, this was the first time that Callisto had held Soul Calibur at Mishima Monthly, and we got 16 people. So very strong turnout for Chicago. And the top 4 of that was Razzle Frazzle taking number 1. Razzle Frazzle also just took our weekly yesterday, so double shout out to that guy. Pat was in 2nd, Zendo in 3rd, and actually myself in 4th.
Dang.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
I was out there getting it. Then I immediately got washed last night. So I'm a fraud, dude. I can't flex anything. I'm a huge fraud.
Yo,
Makes
dude,
top 4, calls himself fraud.
Yo, I went 1 and 2 last night, bro. Like everybody's so good at that.
Dude, I went 1 and 2 as well. I'm a fraud.
Falling behind, Don. What are you doing?
What do you mean? There was 8 people in the bracket, bro. Like everybody's not good.
Oh man, I did see the Soul Calibur part of the Mishima Monthly, and it was those matches were wild. Razzle with breaking out the Cassandra, and like what?
Yeah, that was
the crazy thing because dude. Pat already plays Cassandra. I remember when Pat was like, "Oh, Cassandra got announced. I'm playing Cassandra." And then he did for a little bit. He messed with her, stuff like that. He understands how she plays. He teaches Jackson how to play. He's taught him a few times, like, hey, this is some of your optimal combos, blah, blah, blah. He knows that character. So for Razzle Frazzle to go, I'm going to play Cassandra into your Vortex-heavy Sung Mina, I was shocked. He said, screw the fundamentals, screw Shura Blade. I'm going in gorilla status.
Yeah, like, I'm tired of being optimal and safe. I'm in there. And then it was just like, okay, I guess this is happening. And it worked out for him. Something
super interesting is that was a double jeopardy situation because they faced off in winners finals. It was 3-1 in Pat's favor, so Pat put himself in grand finals. And then it was 2-3 reset in Razzle's favor. So, I mean, the first set was extremely close. So I think pulling out that Cassandra was the smartest thing he could have done. And he actually did it again yesterday. So I think Razzle is just way more comfortable taking Cassandra into Songmina than he is Mitsurugi. Not that Mitsurugi is not strong. I think he just really wants to get in Pat's ass all the time.
You kind of have to though, like, because if you've ever played Pat for any amount of games, like if you're not oppressing him, he's gonna vortex your shit.
He's going to put you in the vortex until you die. It's like Street Fighter 4 Akuma, bro. Like,
hey, you're gonna take this mix-up into my Oki, which is gonna lead to the same Oki setup until you die.
Like, that's just what it's gonna be. You can't give him room to breathe.
K leaves you on the sweep. It's right in front of her. She just does it again.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the type of player he is. if you're not like oppressing him, then you're losing. Like you're actively losing.
Yeah, it's rough. Pat is a very strong player, but I also want to give a shout out to Zendo making it third. Zendo and I have always had very close sets, but I mean, he got my number and he still has my number right now. He's very good at adapting. He's a lab monster. Every single week, he's telling me of the new tech he found. It's obscene, all the things he finds, and he knows a majority of the cast.
Yeah, Zendo's one of those people where it's just like.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, Zendo's one of those people where you can be like, "Yo, Zendo, what do you think about Sophia's blah blah blah?" And he's like, "Oh, well, actually, let me pull you to the side and give you like a 5-minute breakdown of what you just said." And I was like, "Whoa."
Zendo definitely is. He will hit you with too much information. Most definitely. He's like, that's like minus 16. I can do this. I'm like, listen, man, was it safe or not? And he'll essay. Like this man, like Zendo, 2 a.m. At 2 a.m., I'm awake degenerate hours. And I see Zendo has gone online for Soul Calibur 6. I'm like, bro, like, what you got a job, bro? Like, but he's always playing, and he knows everybody in that game to an extent. The first character he had to learn was to teach his friend, which is something that Zendo does. He learns characters to teach other people how to play the game. He taught his friend as well. Season 1, 1.0 as well. His friend didn't even play fighting games. He's like, I started struggling, bro.
Yeah, Soul Calibur, as great as people like make it sound, it's not entirely balanced, but like for any other fighting game, there's a lot of good balance. I'm not going to say that any matchups invalidate each other, but some characters do have struggle bus matchups. So I think it can be tuned a little bit better. I know a lot of people are actually not happy with Soul Attack, but overall, I think the direction that Soul Calibur 6 is going is in a good direction.
Not happy with Soul Attack. Soul Attack is tight, bro.
That's actually not what I just said. I like Soul Attack. I think it's a great addition.
Yeah, no. Soul Attack is sick. The game is well balanced. There's actually a top 5 now. We ain't doing this right now. It's sick. There is a top 5.
I'm talking community. I'm not talking personally. I'm talking what I'm hearing from the community.
Yeah, the community says the game is sick, bro.
Community does say it's sick, and you should pick up Soul Calibur if you are interested, because it actually goes pretty cheap nowadays, like $15-$20. And they're continuing to support because Haomaru is coming in. Dan, how you feel about that one?
Let me tell you something about a man who is special in my heart for just the amount of uppercuts that he has in his arsenal. If anybody doesn't know, I'm a huge Samurai fan, and Haomaru is coming to Soul Calibur 6. I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to at least DP Ham once or twice before he destroys me with Astro. But I think it's a great addition. I was actually surprised when they announced it at Evo because I was like, well, if they're going to add someone from Sam Show, why would it be Haomaru? Even though I would want him in the game because you already have Mitsurugi. So when they did announce him, I was shocked. I was like, I did not think this would be the pick. However, now that he is announced and they did reveal some of his gameplay at Evo Japan, he looks really, really good. Like the model looks good. The trailer was sick. The stage looks incredible, and I'm excited to see how they incorporate his Samurai Showdown moves into Soul Calibur 6. I cannot wait for it. Like I'm super, super, super excited for him to drop because I may not be able to get, the best of first to fives against the two of you, but I can at least get some dragon punches in to, make myself feel better at night.
Mr. Kick, did you put the VOD from last night on your TV back there? What a sly devil. All right, so since we're already talking about game changes, let's move on to our next segment where we're just going to talk about general gaming news. So the things we have here are the Tekken Balance update and the TWT announcement. We're going to talk about the Granblue English release coming out, as well as the PC announcement. We're going to talk about the Street Fighter netcode and Seth, and finally closing it off with the Dragon Ball Season 3 announcement. So we already talked about it a little bit. Ham, I'm going to give you the first bit at this. Leroy's balance changes. How do you feel about them?
Yo, I'm going to tell you, from start to finish, that character sucked. And I don't mean he sucked that he was bad. I mean Bandai Namco just left him super broken on purpose. This was an elaborate scheme to make people buy that character.
Let's
It
go.
was, yo, you already know. They were like, all right, so we're going to put out this cool black dude because there's like no black dudes in Tekken. Don't stay Raven. I'll punch you in the mouth. I'll do it. Don't do it.
Wow.
Oof. But then they go,
Immediate
we're going to put
stop
this
first
cool black
episode
dude from New
already
York in
threatening
there.
the listeners.
And then after that, he was godlike. They knew what they did. He plays Ultra Tekken. So then after that, they go, well, now that you have Leroy Smith, you guys are all having a good time, right? Everybody goes, whoa, dude, this character's broken. And then you got Leroy apologists talking about he's not broken because he doesn't have anything that's truly abusable.
You about to get this work.
Oh my God. Just because a character doesn't have something that completely invalidates something doesn't mean he's not broken if everything he does is better than everyone else. He just steals everybody's stuff. I almost said it. And then he just makes it better. I cannot stand him. And then after that, we found out that they nerfed him at Christmas. Evo Japan comes around, the patch had already been finished, and they left him broken like that, creating one of the worst top 8s ever. And the only reason it was saved was because Mikio is sick. And then after that, they go, hey, he's like fixed again, bro. By then, it's too late. You already ruined an international major tournament.
While you're doing this, I do want to mention that even though the patch was planned in mid-December, there is a lot of development side that they couldn't push it out by Evo Japan. Am I saying that they shouldn't have? No, like they definitely should have pushed out something as soon as they could. But there are logistics that go in on the developer side, so I can understand why they didn't push it out. But as Ham is saying, it was 6 out of 8 players in Evo Japan top 8 that was Leroy. And I have the notes pulled up. Mr. Kick, if you could also pull it up for me. Let's see. Let me just count it out really quick of Leroy nerfs. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of maybe about 22 changes that are for Leroy specifically.
That was the first one. That was
No. This is the 3.2, I believe.
So this is wave 2.
I do believe.
Twice. They knew what they did.
Twice.
And the next patch was literally just like, wasn't it just Leroy? It was just Leroy stuff, right?
Was it? This might be the first one, but either way, like there are a lot of nerfs that this character has got, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the frame data because we don't care about that. But the big things that go, what about what?
Oh,
you care when you got to block it.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
you care when you got to hold it.
Right. So the big things that got touched on: Orbital. Orbital is not -3 or anymore, or whatever obscene negative number it was. Kane is not +8 anymore. That was ridiculous. There was a lot of damage changes across the board. And what's the other one? Oh, down 1+2, where he like scoops his hand at you. That is no longer a counter hit launcher. Guaranteed follow up, but it's not a launcher anymore. So there was a lot of changes for this character, and
dude,
he's
still
top 10.
Hyper Tekken.
He's still top 10, easily.
He's still top 5. Oh, I'm gonna swing at you when I.
Whoa.
All right, so top 5 is top 10. Top 5 is top 10.
Cut the stream.
But yeah, all I'm saying, he's still up in probably S tier. I don't know if he's with Akuma anymore. I don't know if he's still above Akuma. I haven't actually touched Leroy since these changes because I haven't really been playing. I've been playing Soul Calibur. So personally, I can't say too much, but all I know, he's definitely up there, probably top 3 still. So disgustingly good. But we also have the TWT announcement. Now, I know we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, it's nice to be able to see all of the different venues we're really going to be going to. I know we have the coronavirus stuff right now. Hopefully that cleans itself up pretty soon. Because, like, a lot of events are going to inevitably either A, get canceled, or B, they're not going to be, like, you know, CPT did it the same way. They're just like, hey, nobody can travel to this, so it's not going to be worth any points, and you just got to hold that. And that's just how it is. But, like, when Tekken came out, they did the announcement. I watched it with the squad, watched it with the whole group. It was good to see that, obviously all of the big events are there, and they implemented, it's like a real world tour now. It's going everywhere. They're going to Africa, bro. Like, actual Africa. That's crazy. Obviously, South America is going to get something. It's not all consolidated to the United States anymore. And also, Asia's getting some stuff everywhere. Everywhere. The EU is not being abandoned. It's a good feeling for Tekken. Like, Tekken is going to be really tight. And they didn't really change the structure of anything, so I don't really have much else to add to that. The dojo points are still the same. The Master Plus. stuff like that. It's all the same, but it's just more places. And I know that before TWT comes around, they're going to do another balance change. And I think I do suspect that they're going to League of Legends this thing. They're going to hit you with like a massive overhaul of a lot of stuff, because as of right now, Tekken is like not what it used to be, even close. It used to be like, you get knocked down like 4 or 5 times, you got to guess you probably die. Now you get launched twice, you might not make it. So I think that they're probably either going to tone it down, or we're going to continue to see power creep in Tekken.
The suggestions that I've heard is either reduce the damage across the board or actually raise the health values, which I think I like the second one better. That way, Tekken 7 can keep its identity with Screw and not completely kill the integrity of it. But it's interesting to talk about for sure. But going back to the TWT, I know that the Hado is no longer one of the main managers for this. He is taking a backseat. He's still on it, but just not one of the main heads. And I believe, what is it? Tokyo Masters is the first TWT event. Is that right?
Yo,
so,
Tokyo Scrubs?
Something like that.
I think so. I shout outs to Lord Hado as always for everything that he does and his team does with the tournament scenes, not just for Combo Break, like everybody knows, but he's behind the scenes on a lot of events. And so definitely shout outs to him. But I think that there's no doubt that the way the TWT is formed is being copied by other games. So that's how you know it's something successful, right? Because you see other developers now saying, yo, this seems to be working really well for Tekken. Let's try to incorporate that into what we're doing. And so I'm almost positive that developers will see how this TWT season goes and try to pick up things from that to incorporate into their games that they're either out or coming out.
So yeah, that's really the biggest news of Tekken right now. I don't think we're actually in the start of things yet. I don't know when Tokyo Masters is, but it's going to be in the next couple weeks for sure. But on other big news alongside TWT is, Granblue finally getting its English release, and it just announced a Steam version, which no one thought we were getting. Absolutely no one.
Did not see it coming. That means I'm going to buy Granblue a total of 3 times, which is, but it tells you how much I like the game.
I'm super excited for it because I love playing all fighting games on PC, and I just expected to be bodied having to buy it on console. So I'm super glad.
Nothing makes me happier than making fun of NT when he says that he wants to buy a game on PC. Because it just doesn't happen sometimes. And he's like, I don't get to play this now. And I'm like, yeah, hold that. I don't care. Stop playing.
I was counting down the seconds. When looking at your face, I was mentally counting down until you said that.
Yo, dude, you already know. Don't get me wrong. Like, I myself, I think PC's obviously superior in every way. But everybody that plays on PC, such elitists, I can't handle it.
Bro, I don't want to pay to play online.
You're not playing Unist on PC. And then you boot up Unist on PC and you got 87 frames of lag, and they still go, this is a superior version, dude. I'm not playing anything but Unist until Uniclear comes to PC. Dude, just play the game.
I'm going to put this to an end. I'm not going to pay $20 a month or whatever it is for PS Plus to play in 7 frames of lag when I can do it on PC for free. So beyond that, I know a bunch of people are excited for Granblue. The delay is terrible still. We need to be on rollback, but at least we're getting something. And with the way the game is going, it looks like Granblue is here to stay. And I'm excited for it because we haven't had something blow up like this, I think, since the Tekken Dojo system was announced. And I really wish more games would do something like the TWT because it's such a great way to support scenes and make sure that games stay alive for a lot longer. Like DBFZ was on its deathbed until the Season 3 announcement. We all thought it was going to die, but then it got announced for EVO, and then we got the announcement for Season 3, which made a lot of people happy, and we now have the resurgence of that game.
Shout outs to Jokernot for, he did a lot of legwork to make sure. He's like, hey, can we get more setups for Dragon Ball? I swear to God, I'm going to bring people out here. And I'm there, and I'm like, you better bring them. I remember when Abacus came through to Ignite Skokie on a Thursday night, this dude had a beer in front of him full. And this dude waited for 2 hours for somebody to show up for Dragon Ball. and it was so sad. The beer was empty. He was doing arcade mode and 3S. I was like, damn, the community really did him like that,
Joking off for
man.
playing Dragon Ball the whole time though. Like the
The
entire
whole
Yo,
time, did not drop it.
Joker
start of
No,
Season
hold
7.
on, hold on, hold on. Shoutouts to Jokernaut for keeping his team since day one.
Oh man.
That's wild. He's his team's got mad buffs though. We'll get to that in a second, but his team actually got buffed. Aside from Goku 2M, pour one out for 2M, the homie.
Hold on,
But
hold on.
it's
2M,
it,
I got him. GG's.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but Jokernaut has been one of the most vocal in Midwest about playing Dragon Ball. I'm pretty convinced that like he has like the Kenshiros, the seven scars, but they're Dragon Balls on his chest. Like he's been playing that game and pushing for it really hard, and it seems like it's gonna really come back around as far as
and
yeah,
if
absolutely.
you're a Dragon Ball player and you're in Chicago and you're not in the Discord, what are you doing? There's a Discord now, and they're all in there, right? So go get in there, and there's a lot of tech in there too, right? So if you're trying to learn how to play the game,
Oh yeah.
join it up.
So I do want to wheel it back to Granblue before we go further into the Dragon Ball talk. So Dan, you were talking about it a little bit earlier, but like let's talk about our first impressions of the game. Like since it dropped up to now, like let's talk about this little timeline of it's been what 3 weeks to a month. Like how do we feel about this game?
About that. I feel really great about the game. I have been taking it pretty seriously as far as like grinding it, learning it, playing online, even though the netcode, that's something we can set to the side. Not the best. Need real back, but other than that, I've really been enjoying it, especially when I get to play people from the scene, from the Midwest. Everybody's been super helpful. And taking it from perspective of someone coming into an anime game who might not be super deep into the other anime games that are out, it's very accessible. Like you feel like, especially in the beginning, you have somewhat of a fighting chance against people who are much better than you, because whenever I get hit up in Granblue, there's never a time where I'm like, what just happened there? Like, I didn't even see what happened. The pace of the game is at a speed where even someone who's not experienced with, like super fast, crazy movement can keep up with it and then begin to understand why they got hit or why they were put into a situation. So that's my first impression of the game, is that I think a lot of people who just enjoy approaching a game with mechanics that are a bit more straightforward will be able to pick up the game and play it. So it's definitely been getting a lot of community support. Like, the game's not even out in NA, and every time we run Granblue at a local, people are like, yo, I'll come with my setup. I already got it. I'm ready to go. Right.
Doing that, because let me tell you, as an organizer, and Callisto knows this, and anybody else who runs tournaments out here in the Midwest or in general knows how much it costs to finance systems and game copies and DLC constantly, right?
All right, while you're talking about that, Ham, how much have you put into your console? Take a guess. Like everything, game, console, everything included. Give us a number.
This is me buying a copy of a game one time. Each game that is relevant in the FGC today and the PlayStation Raw, I'm probably looking at around $1,300.
$1,300 to have every single game available for tournament, all the DLC, and the console. So if you ever wondered like what cost it is to us, there it is.
So like,
I hate it.
Having
Dragon Ball's DLC is too expensive. I'm fighting those Ooh.
We'll get to that, Ham. We'll get
having a game like Granblue in that case, where the game isn't out yet, it dropped outside of the U.S. and you can purchase it, and everybody wants to play it, right? I didn't expect that. You guys did, but I didn't know. I didn't know the context to Granblue until it happened, and then I was like, oh wow, all right. Well, we got to do something here, and luckily, like, the anime community has been very supportive, and they've brought setups every time, right? So we have copies within our team, like like Dan, you have a copy. Well, you have several copies.
That's what it is, brother.
But a lot of people on our team already have copies, right? But for our low kick consoles, I'm personally waiting for the N8 copy to drop, right? So it's like it's helped us save time and money. So I really appreciate that. And like, please do continue to support. But anyways, sorry, that was a little side tangent, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was a good tangent to have.
I think to round out kind of the Granblue topic, I'll just say that in addition to the versions coming out so fast, like a Steam release 1 week after the official NA release, Arxis has been like really communicative about what they're going to do as far as like certain things. Like there was a proximity OS thing found with the guard button, and they were immediately like, yo, this is not intended. We're going to, patch this out for the NA drop, which is really, I mean, sometimes you find mechanics in games that doesn't get patched out at all, or like for a year, they just let it rock. So,
Right.
I'm interested to see what they're going to do as far as balancing and things like that. Now, some of the Chicago Anime FGC has already warned me, like, this is an Arc Systems Works balance cycle, so hold on to your hats. It might be a little wild, but I am curious just generally from a observer and a participant standpoint of seeing how that works.
So I think that's a great round off. So Ham, I'm going to let you take the lead on this. I want to transition over into Street Fighter. So the first thing I want to talk about is we already touched on it, netcode. So to give a little bit of context, Street Fighter's netcode has not been good. Maybe about 2 months ago, I think it was, there was a Street Fighter player who made a modification to the PC version only that made, peer-to-peer easier, better, something like that. So the players on PC could have more stable connections. And now, just recently, there was another user who made it so crossplay didn't get affected by this, because crossplay got bodied by that first patch. So everyone was happy with the patch because it was making strides. But then Capcom came in, they said they were going to fix it because these users fixed it, and Ham, I'll just let you take it from here.
Okay, so a little bit of background, to flesh things out a little bit. First, there was the Altimore patch. In the beginning there was nothing, and then there was the Altimore patch, and everybody in the Street Fighter community was aware that it was not a real fix. Like, it was a mod, and it was pretty good, and like it was reliable, at least for what people were supposed to. Because you're not supposed to be trying to play people all the way in Uganda. Like, that's definitely not something you should expect. But it was working well enough where people were okay with where it was, because it was such an easy resolution, and most of the time he spent was actually just reverse engineering the source code so that he could get in there and actually resolve it. But then the Fluffy Sheep patch came around, and then that whole the issue with crossplay happened. Then came the immediate panic. Yoshinori Ono goes out on Twitter and says, "We're gonna fix the netcode, bro." And everybody was like, "Are you gonna fix the netcode? We are scared. Street Fighter has sucked netcode wise for multiple years." And he's like, "Don't worry, I understand. I grasp the situation." So he did. He went out and he put out a patch that was really poorly communicated, and no one really knew what it did. And the first thing that people noticed was that the game no longer supported those mods on PC. People panicked. They were like, "What do you mean you removed the thing that made the game work better?" And then everybody was watching Brian Neff's stream, and he played against like 3 laggy Mexican Akumas and like 2 Brazilian Kens, like back to back, and his connections.
Just to hop in here, so when we're saying that the mod is no longer supported, the reason how they did it is that Street Fighter V now has to verify files. So if it detects anything that isn't official game, the game won't even launch. So that's how that works.
So everybody freaked out because they're like, "What do you mean you took away this thing that we like?" And then Brian F's stream was like the first one. That was the one everyone was watching, and it was really laggy, and it was obviously not like an optimal experience. But as it turns out, like, a lot of that was that like people just had poor connections, etc. From what I have observed in the time that I have played Street Fighter, because yes, I have played Street Fighter online, if a connection is bad, it still sucks. Bad. If a connection is good, it's like really good. So like what they do, it seems as though they took like the lead from what Altimore and Fluffy Sheep gave them, made it so it was optimized for both consoles, because I play Street Fighter on PS4, and it made it work better, but it's just not what people wanted. And there was a hellstorm of anger, immediate snap reactions, and they were right to be upset initially from what they saw. But now that like people understand, it's like, well, if you have a bad connection, like you just have a bad connection. That's just how it is. But the expectations for Capcom are so much higher because it's Capcom. Street fighting game community and created the fighting game community. Without it, there would be nothing. So when like the netcode was really bad, everybody was really upset, and it was justified. It was completely justified that would happen. But now we're starting to see that people are saying, hey, you know what? The netcode is better. It's not what we want. It's never going to be KI. It's never going to be Skullgirls. And that's pretty much where we're at. And I know there was some people that got upset. 801 Strider talking about, I'm not going to play your really garbage game because it's got good netcode.
Gustavo pulled out the bazooka.
He did. And it's like, dude, like, from the perspective of like the anime FGC, he was definitely insulting, because that was definitely them. Yo, dude, like, your game sucks online entirely and is almost unplayable. So, like, who cares? You can play Street Fighter all you want when you drive 2 hours to your homie's house. Figure that out. Good luck.
So, from what I understood, as Ham already said a little bit, is that the people who had it good have it better. The people who had it bad, it's actually worse. So, overall, I think most of the community got bodied. And the thing that upsets me the most is Capcom literally just said, stop playing on Wi-Fi and plug in your console, your computer, and it'll be fine.
Plug in your Ethernet cords and buff your computer because its specs suck. That was crazy.
Yeah, but to put it on the community, like, that's rough.
At least they finally said something. They actually, because like when the patch came out, they didn't say what it did, so nobody knew what it did. But they eventually said these are the things that we resolved. But you could see if you read it and you understand like what Altimore did. They took the lead from what he did and Fluffy Sheep to resolve it. So you can see that they actually care enough to fix it. But they don't care enough to actually pour resources into it to actually fix it. They're just like, it's like a Band-Aid. Like, if you want to play, like, good netcode Capcom game, you can play Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Hold that.
All right, so let's stop crapping on Capcom. Let's bring it back to a positive. So, Seth has released, and I think most of the community is in love with that character.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Seth from the local community, also from just online in general. A lot of people are having fun with them, and I think that it's really interesting to me to see the way Capcom, especially for their long-standing fighting games, release characters, because the last couple of characters that have come out seem to work well and work really well actually with Street Fighter V as a whole. I noticed that
engine-wise.
Yeah, engine-wise. And this was something that
Tandon engine?
This was something that was touched on Ultra Chin. They were talking about like Capcom definitely has grasped what makes a character good in the Street Fighter V system. And so Seth had the benefit of having all of her moveset based around an engine that they really understand incredibly well now. And so I think that has contributed to everyone just picking up the character, or at least messing around and saying, yo, this is actually a really nice character. And kind of the same thing with Gil as well, but even more so with Seth.
I think what's most interesting about Seth is that Seth is basically reimagined, whereas Gil and Sagat, because Sagat was Bison, but the previous boss characters kept their identity mostly in Street Fighter V, whereas Seth is almost basically nothing like Street Fighter 4.
Definitely not dropping double legs on you out the air, unblockable cross up into meaty SPD. That's not happening. But interestingly designed character, and there's a lot of people playing Seth at the moment, which is really cool because you're getting it showcased. I will say that like I'm kind of tired of poking on to Twitch and watching everybody play Seth. But I mean, when Street Fighter Champion Edition dropped before Seth, it was just a whole bunch of people playing Kage, and that was equally as whack. So
And before that was all Gil.
Yeah, Street Fighter goes through its cycles, but I like Seth. Seth is cool. I was excited for Seth when they got announced in the first place. I was like, yo, this is sick. You mean to tell me that Puko's coming back? And they didn't. Just bring back Puko.
All right, so I think that's a good wrap for Street Fighter. So the last thing we want to talk about today is finally the Dragon Ball FighterZ, the Season 3 announcement. With the Season 3 announcement, we have the characters Ultra Instinct Goku and Kefla coming in, and there are a couple other characters that will be coming later, 3 other characters. We don't know who they are yet, but Dynamite, I know you're a big Dragon Ball fan. Who do you think can be those other 3 characters? I imagine they're going to be from Super, if I had to guess, but I don't know.
I think that they're actually going to end up putting Roshi in the game, Master Roshi. I mean, people want to see him, and I think that there's enough that a push that they could actually put him in the game. I would actually like to see Launch put in the game. That would be really cool.
No, that'd be tight.
I don't know how they would
really
work
cool
in
to see
mechanics.
Launch because Akira Toriyama
completely forgot about
the character existed.
Well, actually, just not even the character herself. I think there could be an interesting mechanic of her switching personalities mid-match.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Like almost like an install.
Yeah, that would be really cool. But realistically, we're going to see probably some people from Super. I think we might see like Topo. We might see someone like Ribrian. We might see someone maybe even like maybe not Champa, but
what about Jocko?
I think that's a good read. I think that's actually a pretty good read if they're going to put in another character that's like from Super, that's a little bit more lighthearted. But I'm almost confident that they're going to put Roshi in. A lot of people have been asking for Roshi. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But I don't think we're going to get any more like Dragon Ball GT characters.
I was just about to say, stop being cowards and put Super 17 in the game. He's the only cool-looking character in GT. Put Omega Shenron in there.
That's Omega a hard take.
Super whack. But it didn't matter because he was actually, you put Baby in there and have Baby Vegeta. So you can have 7 Vegetas instead of 3, and then you could make Turles in there, so you can have 9 Gokus, whatever, do it.
We don't need Turles. We definitely don't need Turles. Install. I'm not feeling it. But yeah, I these 3 will be really, really interesting to see what's going to happen with them. Everybody knew Ultra Instinct Goku was coming, so that's definitely not a surprise. Kefla was, I was hoping they would add her in, so that's great to see. We might end up seeing Kaba. I hope not, because I'm not a fan of that character, but that's another Super pick that could be in there, and we'll see what happens. So
with this announcement of the characters, I know there have been a couple changes. So we're going full on Marvel style, where each character is getting 3 assists. From what I've been reading, the A and B assists are less powerful, but have a lower cooldown. Where the C version is almost like a combo in itself, but the assist timer is on a much larger cooldown. And also there's, of course, the actual balance changes to all the characters. I know Frieza is a big winner.
Frieza is a very big winner. We've been seeing that, some people have breaking Krillin back out, and I'm very interested to see how team composition will now work. The selectable assisting has been something that people have been asking about since the game dropped, right? Like since the game came out, like day one, they were like, yo, it'd be sick if we could have multiple assists to mix it up. And I'm pretty sure that, the Arxis team that was working on Dragon Ball was, saying, hey, we should probably work on this, and it might have just taken them this long to get it done, because it's a big ask to now add in 2 more assists per character, considering they were already working on DLC characters and etc. So it's a great change. One thing also to note with another change is that the block string pressure that you can put down on while using your assist has actually been extended as well. So your assist doesn't start to come back until a few seconds after the opponent has stopped blocking. So that also changes up a lot of the pressure game in Dragon Ball, because it almost forces a disengage period. Whereas
you actually have to mix your opponent, and you can't just rely on beam assist to hold them down again as you go in for another mix-up. You have to back off.
Which is really big, because if anybody knows anything about Dragon Ball, like, you've seen Goichi put someone in a block string for like 30 seconds on the clock. Like, you've seen it happen. So
you also watched Goichi block a block string
successfully.
For 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Full spark.
He did it at the World Finals. It was crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the largest changes, as well as the fuzzies are gone. So you can't do a rising attack and hit a crouching opponent overhead anymore, which is really important. And you can also delay and change up the amount of time there is before your next character. Like, if you get snapped, your next character that comes in, you can delay that timing. Yeah.
And on they added like a throw tick game that's even stronger now.
Yep. Yeah, they did. There's tick throws, and there's actually a brand new mechanic on top of all of this, limit break, which I don't actually know any hard numbers about what that's about. I just know it's
about 20%. It's about 20%.
I thought it was 10.
That's what they said when it came out, and they lied. It's a big deal.
All I know is I saw a hit in level 3 sparking with limit break going and dump 7 bars into somebody, and their life just vanished. So.
Yeah, but I mean, that is literally every single resource in your arsenal, so it should kill. True. If it didn't kill, I'd be upset.
That's fair. That's fair. But
as like that, I'm already starting to see some of the discourse that's going on within the higher level of Dragon Ball. To Kill Stage was on the No Frills podcast, like literally last week, talking about, I'm so sick everybody talk about balance changes. Just play the game, if you love it, just play it. And then Super New goes on Wednesday Night Fights and goes, yo, don't put comeback mechanics in my game. I'm sick of this. This is big sleep. And it's like, your opinion is big sleep. That's big sleep, bro.
So, yeah, shout out to Jokernaut saying it's 20% damage buff, but it's a total of 30% when sparking is active. So that's a huge number. That's pretty.
It's like Tekken. It's not Tekken Tag 2 Rage, but it's scary.
It is definitely scary, but from a organizer standpoint, it speeds up the games.
That has been one of the hardest parts about supporting this game, is it just runs on for such a long time.
Yeah. That's all I gotta say about it. Look, I really support. I love the Dragon Ball guys, right? Like, Jokernaut and Dr. Fraudulent have been coming through since like our inception. Or like Super Saturday's inception, to play Dragon Ball, and nothing against that game at all. It's great, but man, does it take long.
It's just mad long, dude.
The community,
that's it. It's mad long, and it's like when it's like you watch somebody reset a bracket, you got Gogeta no mix in the corner, not Gogeta, Vegito no mix in the corner. Like, you ever watch NLBC? You see Spooky sitting at the stage like, could you please just kill him? I want to go home. I gotta put this stuff in the cab, bro.
I don't know. All I'm gonna say is I'm excited to see what this game brings. And of course, shout out to all of the Dragon Ball players. Like, we may hate on the game, but the Dragon Ball players absolutely love that game, and all power to them, because they stay true to that game. We just said Jokernaut and Dr. Fraudulent. They come out strong. They always do. We can always rely on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode of EX Saturdays. If any of you guys watching have any questions or topics, or even listening to us on Spotify, if you're doing that, if you have any topics, questions that you'd like to hear us discuss, you can hit us up on Twitter at EX Saturdays, or you can hit us up through the email, exsaturdays@gmail.com. If you'd like to hit me up personally, you can find me. My thing is, if I'm pointing right, oh, nope, other side. My Twitter is right there. Yeah, I got schmicks. So you can find me at NT1Evolution, or if you want to watch me on Twitch, there is also twitch.tv/NT1Evolution. Links are right there. Dan?
You can find me on Twitter at Super Dynamite D. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Super Dynamite D. I'm definitely going to be streaming Granblue Steam version when it comes out. So gotta, warm up the stream for that. I've had a couple of test streams, but I'm looking to get more into it pretty soon.
Ham?
All right, so you already know, at Ham Harder, that's where you can find me on Twitter. Twitch.tv/LKHamJams, representing the brand strong. It's in the name, bro. If you ever need anything, hit me up on Discord. I'm very responsive. If you hit me up on Twitter, I will 100% answer because I'm clinically addicted to Twitter. I have a problem, and I need help.
And shout-outs to our special guest for the first episode, Mr. Kick. Yeah. Would you like to promote anything? I got your Twitter here.
Sure, yeah. You can find me at Mr. Kick LK on Twitter and basically anything else. I'm on Discord. If you're not in our Discord, please join our Discord. Anybody want to drop a Discord share in chat, please?
Got you.
But yeah, so we've got a lot coming up. I mean, for those of you that were here for the first part of the podcast, you've seen our year-long calendar and everything that we have coming this year. And, we hope to see you there. And also, we hope that you guys enjoyed the first episode of our new podcast. I want to thank everybody here in the call for helping bring this together. And I want to thank everybody who's watched this entire time and stuck around in the chat. We really appreciate you guys. So like I said before, I'm not always going to be on the podcast. I will be here on the back end doing production, so I'll be here in spirit or just on the other side of the screen. But what I plan to do is this podcast will be up hopefully within the next couple days on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think those are the main two. It'll be on YouTube. We'll export it to YouTube immediately. But we plan to have it in an accessible way for you to consume. And we'll keep you posted as soon as it's posted and out live on one of those services. We'll tweet it out and let you know. But overall, thanks again. We'll see you next Saturday at 11:30. Unless anybody else has anything to say or wants to cover anything.
Just going to tack on to that. This is going to be a weekly podcast. Myself, NT, Ham Jams, and Dynamite will always be with me. We're going to be keeping a similar format, and it will be every single Saturday when there isn't a Super Saturdays or a Roundhouse event. So all I can say is we hope that you tune in next Saturday because we will be continuing forth, and I hope you guys had fun watching.
Alrighty. See you next weekend.
Wow.